All right, great. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is the board meeting for May 17th. We've got a pretty decent agenda, so we will get started at 6 o'clock on the nose. Additions and deletions to the agenda. Anybody?
I have no recommendations.
Okay. Correspondence. I wish I brought it with me. I did get a correspondence from a gentleman, oh man, did I bring it? Who used to teach here. And maybe Carolyn, you will know who this in the mid
Brian Sackett?
70s.
Brian Sackett.
No. Michael Carroll? Matthew Carroll, yes.
Carroll. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a lovely letter talking about his time here, and he went on to be principal at looks like Floodbrook and
Yep.
I think Grafton, and then went to Connecticut to be a principal at 2 different middle schools for 16 years, and he just had a lot of nice things to say about the opportunities with the small school, the trips that they did, one to Boston. They actually went on a plane. They had somebody that had a plane and they took kids up on a plane, and so anyway, so that is the one correspondence I have, and I have it if anybody would like to hear more about it. So
Could you give it to Mickey, scan it to Peter, so when he does the minutes, we can attach it to that?
do you know how to scan? There you go. Thanks. Okay, that's the only correspondence I've had. Members
I
of,
do not have any correspondence.
okay. Members of the public. Hi, Gail. Yeah.
Beth, if there are no other members of the public, I'll just say very briefly that the weighting study passed.
Oh, wow.
And in conversation, I talked at the select board meeting last night, but in conversation with some of the folks at Joint Fiscal, I'll just read the first couple of paragraphs. The Windham School District will actually see increased tax capacity. In other words, it will be easier for Windham School District to raise its school budget at a lower tax rate.
Wow. Nice.
With the new and updated weights, the Windham School District would be able to have the same education budget with a tax rate that is 27% less than its current rate.
Wow, that's fantastic. So raise the school budget and lower taxes. Dynamite.
And the other thing I'll just add is that the property and income yields were adjusted, and we can potentially, I don't have the details yet, maybe Bill, Lori knows better, but we may see as much as a 15 cent decrease in our tax rate.
Wow. Okay.
So we'll see about that.
Dynamite.
Yeah.
All right, did you get all that, Peter? It's Peter.
I'm just catching up.
Okay. All right, and I see Abby's
Did
here.
you start?
What?
Have you convened the meeting?
Oh, yeah, we've started. Sorry, did you catch Carolyn's part?
Just the end of it, so I'll catch it on the recording later.
Okay, dynamite. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public? Okay, hearing none. New business, principal contract. I have the contract to sign. I'm happy to sign it. Do I need to make a motion, Bill, to sign it, or?
You need a motion from the board to allow the chair to sign the principal's contract for the 22-23 school year.
Okay.
Before, I'm sorry, I just hopped on here. Before we do the motion, did I miss a part? Did we get to, I know we had the meeting, the special meeting last week, but if people were unable to attend or see that, have we let anybody know kind of what that is before we do the motion? Would that make sense?
This motion's for my contract, not for hers.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
It's
Right
only
on.
for Mickey's contract, the other one has no bearing.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I make a motion to accept the contract.
Woohoo! Great, I'll
We need
second.
a motion to allow the chair to sign the contracts. Abby, could you do that?
I would like to make a motion for the chair to sign the contract, please.
Thank you.
Great.
I will second it.
Thank you. Russ, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, great, thank you. Motion passes, I will sign the contract.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll sign it, I have a pencil right now.
Great.
All right, next, old business. Approved minutes of April 12th, 2022. I read over them, they look good to me. They're very detailed, Peter, thank you.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented. There are small modifications, but they're not necessarily to discuss.
Okay. I'll second that. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes from April, please say aye.
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 Great, thank you. That motion passes. Okay, next, principal report.
Oh, wow, alrighty. Sorry, reading this other letter. It's really interesting to me. All right, welcome. Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you to the audience in person. Great to see everybody. The final round of testing and assessing for the school year is underway for the month of May. We have, am I in a bad spot? Just right behind that thing, huh? Come on, move. Don't want anyone to be gypped out on seeing my loveliness. We have the Smarter Balance assessment taken by the 3rd and 4th graders for math and language arts on their computers. This is the final year-end summative assessment that is used by all Vermont school districts to report adequate yearly progress. In addition to this, all students will be taking the final spring benchmark assessment on the Ames web platform. Both sets of results will be used to plan for missing gaps next year, as well as to determine individual progress for each student over the course of this past school year. Nurse Abby Welch was here on Friday, April 15th to work with both classes about bike safety. This is the time of year the kids should be getting outside to ride their bikes, and Abby wanted to spend time on the safety precautions to take when doing this healthy outdoor 3-season activity. She talked with them about helmets, other protective gear, and making sure you can be easily seen by cars when on the road. Nurse Abby will also be back this coming Friday to do vision and hearing screenings with the students. The school board has approved the hire of a new teacher for the K-2 classroom. Once the contract is signed and returned, we'll provide more information about the new teacher for next year. I don't want to say anything just yet because she hasn't signed the contract and there's always a chance that something may go wrong. Hopefully not. On Monday, April 11th, the upper grade class went for their final visit to the Brattleboro Museum and Arts Center. This exhibit was quite different from the others they have seen this year during the previous 2 visits to the museum. The name of the exhibit was The Cardboard Slave Kits and the Myth of Identity. It was pretty deep. There were several sculptures made from cardboard depicting slaves in various positions. Some of these were reinterpretations of other famous works done by other artists. The visit ended, as it always does, with the students presenting which piece was their favorite and why, as well as doing a hands-on art activity with the teaching artist. Our first visit for next school year is already set for September 13th, if anyone would like to join us. The Friends of Windham School, or FOWS group, as I'm calling it, continues to get things done here at school this spring. We now have 3 new picnic tables to use outside for eating and possibly outdoor teaching, as well as 3 new raised garden beds. This was a collaboration between many Windham residents to get this project completed for planting now and harvesting this fall. It is very exciting to be growing some food that can be eaten by the students and community members, as we have done in previous years. Also, the week before April break, the FOWS group organized an Easter egg hunt for the students outside on the playground, which was a very exciting and new activity for the students. The Kindness Campaign came on May 11th, with Sally representing the FOWS group as well, to paint signs and rocks. The signs were about keeping Windham clean and not throwing trash on the road. These signs are going home with the students to be placed on lawns as a reminder to everyone not to litter. A Teacher Appreciation Week lunch was provided to the staff by parents on May 2nd. A huge thank you to Bridget Blanchard and Bridget Corby for watching the students for lunch and recess and providing a delicious lunch of lasagna, mac and cheese, quiche, salad, and cookies. It was such a treat for the 3 of us to get to sit together and talk without having to worry about the students for almost a full hour. Thank you to the Bridgets. The Hero Project has returned to Windham School this spring, thanks to the work of Susan Hafner, who we have worked with now for over a decade. The students are again participating in the Hero Project through the Weston Playhouse. This program will combine creative thinking, costume and set design, and development of an original performance and characters by the students. There is no final performance at the Playhouse this year, but there is still an end-of-the-year celebration at the Weston Town Common on Saturday, June 4th from 12 to 3 with games, activities, and fun for all ages. Hopefully students will get the chance to attend that day with their families. Dana Haley from the Bean Group emailed me about a real estate transaction in Cavendish that has proceeds being donated to local organizations. I was contacted by Dana to set up the school receiving some of these funds. It was suggested to me by Lori Garland that this goes through the Fowles Group, so they are now in charge of obtaining this donation, which I believe is in the mail, according to Dana. Dana did email me at the end of last week to notify me that the amount being sent was $1,020.
Wow.
Which is super exciting. That's a really big chunk of money. And hopefully between the Fowles Group and the staff and everybody else, we can talk about a good way to utilize that donation.
Wow, that was nice.
Yeah, super cool.
Nice.
That's all I've got.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for the principal?
Yes, Russ has a few.
Okay.
Mickey, you had mentioned early on that the math competency was done on computers.
Yeah,
And for what grade levels was that done on?
3rd and 4th.
Okay, and how many computers do you have in the school?
I have no idea. More than we have students.
You have excess computers then, because I was looking and there seemed to only be 6 or 7 of them there.
Nope, there's tons of Chromebooks.
Okay, because if there's a need for more computers, as the need increases, we need to include that in a future budget item to purchase technology for the students.
Correct, but that is not a need right now.
Okay,
But thank you.
that's the only question I had, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anybody else for Mickey? All right, iPhone, I'm sorry, do we know who iPhone is?
Thank you, Beth. I was going to ask that.
It's probably me, Michael Pelton.
Okay, great, thank you, Michael. All right, next, Superintendent Report.
All right, let me type in Michael Pelton here.
Okay.
Okay, I want to just comment on Nikki's real quick. I really appreciate that BMAC asks the really important educational question to the students of why they liked whatever they liked. They don't just leave it as, did you like it? Like when you see a good movie, oh yeah, I liked the movie, but why did you like it? I just appreciate the educational component, so when our Windham students go, it's a true educational experience. So Mickey, thanks for making that happen.
Absolutely.
And Carolyn stole my thunder because I was just going to highlight the waiting study.
Sorry, Bill.
That's okay. I'll flesh it out just a little bit. So it comes into effect FY25. So it will not affect your budget building for next year, but it will affect your budget building in 18 months. So it's just important for the board to think about long-term planning, that the waiting study will be instituted for FY25 through FY29. And I think through the brilliance of the legislature, the full impact of districts that have been harmed for over 2 decades will happen in FY25. And the districts that have been receiving extra benefits will have to scale it for 5 years. So what that means for Windham is that you're going to get the full force of the weighting happening in FY25. It won't be 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100%. We could talk about that more in the fall, but that is a big, big deal for how you will plan in FY25. So I just wanted to highlight that.
That's great.
Beth, can I comment?
Oh, Carolyn would like to say something.
So, Bill, my understanding is that we may not be affected or benefited in this next year. However, I believe that the spending penalty threshold is suspended.
You are correct. The The spending threshold is suspended until FY29.
Right.
So it's continuous for last year, this year, through FY29. That's a very good point. Thank you for
Yep.
bringing that up.
Yep.
That's
Thanks.
great. Bill, anything else?
No, I mean, I gave you all my report. If
Yeah.
anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay. Are there any questions for the superintendent?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Where are we at, Bill, with a grant writer for the district? Has anybody been
Windham
hired
or
or-
for the supervisory union?
I'm sorry, what was that?
A grant writer for Windham or a grant writer for the supervisory union, the collection of the 10 towns, 5 districts.
Whoever Wyndham would need to have for a grant writer, because there's grants left and right that I think we would be eligible for, and I'm just not sure what we could do to kind of maybe get somebody into that role.
So we do not employ a grant writer at either the supervisory union, nor does Windham, nor does any individual school district. So basically each individual school district is on their own for any kind of grant writing.
Interesting.
Can I comment on that? Actually, that was one. Can I have that correspondence back, please, from Mr. Carroll?
You may. It's
One of
very
the things that
interesting.
came from Abby, I don't think you were on. I had one correspondence from a gentleman, Matt Carroll, who used to teach here. Carolyn knows of him, in the mid-70s. And he did mention in here, during my time with the 3 through 6th graders, the state of Vermont offered $2,000 mini grants to provide students with new and enriching experiences. He said, I wrote 2 of them. The application was simple, the accountability reasonable, and the only limit was creativity. One grant was gave students a new look at where they lived by hiring a professional photographer and then giving the students a chance to use a camera. So my take on that is because we don't have a grant writer and the WCSU does not have a grant writer, I agree with you that if maybe we could put this out to the community. My sister, for instance, she was an English major, but she worked for an art center down in South Jersey, and she wrote grants. So I think it's something that if we put it out to the community, we could find somebody who might have the ability, have those skills to help us navigate some grants. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's, I muted on that. I think that's great, and just, anyone who's interested to see what's out there, there's a website, Grant Watch. And you can be put on their mailing list, and you get, notifications of when there's things that's going on in your area. You don't get the full details unless you subscribe to it, but it's very detailed. And there are things that just by the description alone, we would likely be eligible for if we applied for it. So if we had someone willing to do that, just as far as all of the, things that we want to have done for our community, for the education piece, we could fit that in. So, and I feel like we miss out by not at least trying. So I think that's a great idea. Would that be an email blast from Ellen?
That's what I just wrote that down. And I'm wondering, is that something you said there's a subscription? And Mickey wants to chime in here too. Is that something where the Friends of Windham group could maybe pay for? I don't know how that would work. Could the Friends of Windham pay for that subscription if we found somebody who would be willing to keep a watch on that?
I think that's definitely a discussion that we can have at our next meeting on the 24th. We'll add it to the agenda.
Right.
Because that's a very reasonable request. We have been talking about that. So that is a great thing that hopefully we can figure out. But all hands on deck, I think, would be a good a good approach as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can bring that up. It's coming up next Tuesday. So, a week from today.
Okay.
And see what we can get from that meeting.
Yeah, if you could find out how much that subscription is, at least that, we'll know, and then we can go from there. But I think this is great, and I'd like to continue to add this grant, grant watch, whatever, grant discussion to our future board meetings. I think this should stay on the table for sure. Mickey wanted to add something.
Yeah, so a couple things with regard to that. If I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be, that happens. I thought Lisa Bechet at one point had mentioned taking a grant writing class to try to start looking into being able to do that. So I don't know if anyone's still in touch with her, but it might be worth asking her about that. And my other suggestion is that potentially the new admin assistant that we hire for next year with her 20 or his 20 hours a week could maybe have time to devote to working on some of these things, which would be ideal actually, to have somebody in the building working on it, you know, who's in contact with the teachers as well. So maybe if time permits, once that job gets settled and fleshed out a little bit, that could be something that person might take on.
That's great. That's a great idea. All right, that's great. This is a really good discussion. Thank you, Abby, for bringing that back to the table and moving it forward. Yeah. Okay, any other questions for the superintendent? Okay, moving on, we have the WRED representative update from Crystal Koravu. But I don't see Crystal on, and Crystal is not here. So, Bill, do you...
I can give a quick update in Crystal's absence. Basically, the long-term planning is subsuming the West River right now, and they have two task forces. They have an elementary task force, and they have a secondary task force, and they meet weekly, and all community members are invited to attend. All meetings are scheduled on westrivered.org, so if you go to westrivered.org and you're interested in attending or listening, you can go to that. But on June 6th, Monday, June 6th, both task forces will be reporting to the board themselves of what they have explored, what they have found, and if they have any recommendations about the future. So I would just put June 6th on your radar. It'll be at 7 p.m. It's a hybrid meeting. It'll be at Leland and Gray and on Zoom. So if you just kind of keep that in your mind, that's when the task forces will be sharing out.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, next is approved financials. Abby and Russ, I feel you got the same emails I did from Terry Fletcher regarding voucher number 31 and 34, which are just the general fund expenses. I didn't see anything wrong with those, and otherwise we would be approving pay orders 29 through 35. Those others, 29, 30, 32, 33, and 35 are all just payroll. Does that sound?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Russ has a couple of questions.
Yep.
There's an indication in there for Christy Webster Counseling Services LLC for $800. I'm wondering what that's for. Is that for students or for teachers?
That's for the school counselor that works here at the school for the students.
Okay, then the second question is, the town of Windham, for voting for postage of 1,072, I'm assuming that's both votes that were done last year in contesting the opening of the school. Is that correct, Beth?
I can't say that I know that for sure. I can.
Is that just one vote or two?
That's a good question. Where's the phone?
Out on the desk by the computer.
You can hold on, talk amongst yourselves.
She's going to make a phone call, Russ, to check on that.
Okay, my next question is, the claim to pay order for Windham Legal for $1,312.50. I'd like some more itemization as to what legal expenses and the reason for its incurment.
I can provide that, Russ. What was the total on that?
$1,312.50.
1,312.50. Okay, I will provide the board the itemized details of that expense.
That was for,
Yeah, it's item number 1182.
hi,
Thank you.
was the postage for the
And
two?
the next
votes
question,
or
the
one?
fourth question is about fuel for the bus. I have not seen for several months any
It was for the two
indication
votes.
of billing
Okay,
by the
and
town
then the.
to the school for the fuel for the school bus. And I'm wondering if there's a summary that could be possibly prepared by the treasurer of the school so that we know and understand what it is we're paying, where this money, is it being billed or not being billed? It doesn't seem to be being billed.
Okay, all right, hold on one second. Okay, great, thank you. All right, so Russ, that is for the two votes. And as far as the lawyer fee, is that what you were talking about?
Bill's gonna get him that information.
Okay, but also I just talked to the treasurer and the treasurer is holding that check to get more information. So, just so you know.
She's holding the check for the payment of legal fees?
Just in the meantime, just to get some more information about it.
Okay. So approval
Respond
would
to that
be,
request.
we would give approval for everything except for item number 1182, which is the legal fees.
Yes, yep. So, I would take a motion for the approval of pay orders 22 through 35 with the exception of, item number 1182 from, pay order 34.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? So Peter, I've made that motion, Russ has seconded it, if there's any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Awesome, thank you, great, and then we'll hear back from the treasurer about that, the lawyer fees. Great,
Give me the number of that pay order again.
yes.
The
It's
34.
pay order 34, the vendor,
Thank you.
vendor number 1182.
Got it.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, next is a parent request for tuition.
Oh, continuous improvement plan
Oh,
first.
sorry. Oh, I already checked that off. I'm sorry. I'm moving
Yeah,
ahead
I
of you.
wish it was
Yeah.
checked off too. It's pretty quick. So I just have the continuous improvement plan here, which is a living document that we work on constantly throughout the course of the year at sometimes leadership meetings or here at the school with Sarah and myself. And Beth, it talks about the shared vision for the school, committed to the success of students academically, physically, socially, and emotionally. Talks about some of the prioritized goals in the academics, working on increasing proficiency in language arts and math and using the assessment tools to support the students and how we take that data and use it. Talking about more PE time and outdoor time as much as we can incorporate that into the course of the school day. And it just goes over all the things that we'll be working on over the course of the next 3 years. And as I said, it is a 3-year document, but it gets reviewed every year, so it's constantly being upgraded and changed and improved and modified as needed. So I am supposed to bring it tonight, which I am doing, and I guess, Bill, what do we need? Approval from the board?
Yeah, so this is an AOE required document. As Mickey said, it's a 3-year plan, but even though it's 3 years, the board has to approve it every single year. We have to have it in the minutes, and it has to be a very specific motion. So I need the motion to be to approve the Windham Continuous Improvement Plan for the FY 22-23 school year.
So moved.
I will make a motion to approve it, but I have some questions on its content.
All right, I'll second it. Any discussion? Go ahead, Russ.
On page 11 of the documents that were sent by Bill, it says under prioritized goals, third line down, during school hours, tutoring will be made available to those students not reaching proficiency. And I would like to ask Mickey, how do you provide the tutoring during the school year?
Sure. When Sarah's kids are off at a special like PE or music or art, I could potentially then work with some of my students in that capacity, or if my students are down there, I'm able to pull some of the kids from Sarah's class. It's pretty similar to what I was explaining to Beth, how we do a lot of the year end and the assessments throughout the course of the year, because I end up being the one that has to do all those, and so I try to do it when my class is at a special, and then Sarah has her class, so then I can pull those students to work with me one-on-one on those assessments. So it gets done sort of in that same format.
Okay. In another section on page 13, it says under prioritized goals that you will create a small group within the classroom to focus on special literacy skills as identified by the assessments. How do you do that when there's only two of you in the city? You're the principal teacher and there's another teacher with you, but how do you get small groups set aside so you can achieve this goal?
Yep, I take the small group into the library room and I sit with them at the middle table the same way that I do my reading instruction on a pretty daily basis. And so I meet with that group of 2 to 4 students while the other 2 to 4 students are in the classroom with the door open, so that I can poke my head in and check in on them as well.
Okay, because it says further, the academic support teachers, plural, will collaborate with classroom teachers to provide specific instruction.
Correct.
Are there other support teachers that come with you to collaborate with this type of instruction?
Not for the standard instruction, no, but we had the academic support teachers from the district come up a handful of times this year to help us do some of the assessments and spend some time here to help us on a couple different things. But no, we don't typically get the academic support teacher up here during the regular education period.
So what are the other students doing when you're involved in this individualized instruction?
Independent work.
Independent work.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's one of the things, honestly, that the kids here struggle the most with because they constantly have access to an adult. And so trying to get them to be more independent and do some work without asking a question every 30 to 45 seconds is really important.
Well, I understand how it's difficult to teach multi-grade classrooms and that students learn at different paces. And I find it interesting to see the way you approach this particular situation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Russ, and then hopefully we'll also have a third adult in the administrative assistant that we hopefully will.
Yeah, that would be really nice if we get that other adult here.
Okay, that's great. So wait, okay, so is there any other discussion? I wasn't track here. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the Windham Continuous Improvement Plan, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Now,
Thank you.
on to parent request for tuition. That was Crystal Corvu, who is not here, and I don't see, she's not on Zoom. So, what's up, Bill?
You can just table the request.
Okay,
We'll put it on the agenda for the June meeting.
table the request.
There you go.
Okay, does that sound reasonable for everybody? Is that all right? Okay. Okay. Wow, that's a big chunk of things there.
That is.
Okay, oh, so now we're on to H, out-of-district home study requests. Would you like to speak to that, Bill?
Yes, so Windham received a request from a Townsend resident who homeschools their students to be able to participate in Windham's as a home study student. So under Vermont law, a student who is a resident of the town may be a home study student, but may petition the school through the principal to participate in selective areas of participation that, as long as they do not disrupt the normal operations of the school. So the most common example is a home study student may come up on 2 days a week to participate in PE, or they might come up 1 day a week when music is offered, or they might be really interested in math, and so they will come up during the 45-minute math block. That is very common within district. This request comes from out of district. So the normal pathway would be for the request to go to the Townsend School District. But this parent wanted to come to Windham because it was physically closer to come to Windham. So the board directed me to ask the attorney this question, and the attorney's response was, yes, it is possible for that to occur, but the normal pathway is to have that request within the district. And the attorney's advice is that that the power does rest within the board to make this decision, but that doing so, you are may or may not, depending on the way you view it, setting a precedent that you are making a special deal for a particular student. And the moment that you make that decision, you are then responsible if that home study student requires any specialized education. Townsend would not be responsible for it. Windham would be responsible for it because you allowed that student to attend as an out-of-district student. So the attorney's advice is that you have the power to do it, but that you should encourage the asker to receive those services within the district that they reside.
Okay, and I want to clarify, it's my understanding that this person it's in West Townsend, I believe, on Windham Hill Road, is that correct?
I do not know where they live. I just know that they say they live closer to Windham than they do to Townsend
Yeah, okay.
Elementary.
I feel like so you're talking about PE, you said, and what was the other one, art? Or
Music and PE
Oh,
were the
music
two specific requests.
PE. So it seems to me if we're gonna fully look at it, just to be fair, I feel like it'd be a question for our PE and music people, on maybe how they feel about that. So not wanting to jump to a decision right now and just to really feel like we're looking at it with all the different, options or issues. Is this something we can table and have a discussion with our PE
Beth?
teacher? Yes, Russ.
Beth, I think you're missing one of the key points. One of the key points is that if this child has any special education needs whatsoever, in any manner, way, shape, or form, as soon as we admit them into the Windham district, we are responsible for that special education need.
Yep, thank you, Russ. I'm not missing that point, and I'm not asking for approval of this. I'm asking just to further the conversation. I'd just like to hear from some of the other educational professionals who come to the school and just have a discussion. That's it, and then add it to the next agenda.
I agree with you 100%, Beth. I think that is a great idea. And I don't think that any family, if a child has special needs, I realize there's cost associated with that, but that should not be a deciding factor on whether or not.
But unfortunately, that's not the case, Abby. The way it is written in the statutes is that the town in which the child receives education is responsible for the special education needs. So if that child is admitted to the Windham district, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, we are responsible for any special education needs of that child, whether it be with music or physical education. We are responsible for that PE need. Please correct me, Bill, if I am wrong.
I think that's fabulous.
So both Abby and Russ are correct. The interesting factor about this is that the WCSU as a whole voted and agreed to share all special education costs. So if the request came from an SU school, which this is, Townsend, that the special education is a non-issue because it would be within the SU. But if it came from Chester, it would be an issue. However, it is important to note that I would have recommended you would not grant this for the remainder of the 4 weeks of school left. So I do think it is incumbent on the board to go ahead. You can go ahead and talk to the specialized teachers, music and PE, and I think it is worthy of a discussion at your August meeting so that you can have a discussion before school begins. But Russ is correct that when you enter in a home study student that is out of home study and you allow them into the school to take anything, then the special education costs do come with you. But we are different from 2 years ago when Windham would have been solely responsible. If they are part of the WCSU, the entire WCSU would be part of that.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Go ahead.
You have a request, you have a hand up in the Zoom land from Mr. Pelton.
Are you right, Carolyn?
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead, Michael, and then after you, it's Carolyn.
My question is quick and simple. Is it possible, if they were to consider this as an option, that they would only make exceptions for home study students within the supervisory union, or are they obligated to accept students from outside of the supervisory union as well if they make this decision?
It's a good question, Michael, and it is totally within the board's purview to make individual decisions each time it's asked. So the Windham School Board could decide on their own that they have made their own decision to only consider requests from within the supervisory union. That is within their power to make that guardrail on their own.
Okay, great. That was a great question, Michael. Thank you. Carolyn?
And my question is along those same lines, Bill. Would that, let's just hypothetically say the home studies student from Chester, if we had made that decision to only accept folks from the supervisory union, would that student or the student's family from Chester have some kind of legal rights to have us accept them?
No, there's no legal rights. They would just make an argument that if you have previously made a decision that allowed somebody in from outside of your district, they could make that argument, but the board gets to make an individual decision each time.
Great,
Okay.
thank
I have
you.
another question.
Yeah.
Sorry, this one may be complicated, Bill, but if we or they or somebody approves this student or students to come here and they say they're only coming for music and PE, but then they realize they like it and say they want to stay for math too, but then they have special needs in math, does that then require us to have to meet those special needs in math when they originally said they were only coming for PE and music?
Yes, it would require that because they are now been accepted as a home study student that is a partial enrollee at the school, and it does not make a difference if they initially said we only are interested in PE and music, but they want to then be interested in math.
So we can't just accept a student just based on, okay, for instance, in the past, we've had homeschool students who've come for, I think for art and for soccer, which I realize isn't during the day. So you're saying that we couldn't say, yes, we would like for you to come for just math, or for art and music. You're saying it's opening the door for them to be able to come for math? That doesn't, if we can make parameters, why can't we just make parameters?
Out of district.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about within the district. Sorry, I'm talking about within.
You would need to write a policy that would be vetted by the attorney that would say that you're only going to allow for certain things. But every home study student that lives in your district has the ability to come into the school and take slices of courses. And I think you have a very high legal barrier to deny them to. The legal barrier is really, is it disrupting the school environment for a kid to come into math class? And I think that's a high legal barrier for you to prove.
Okay, yeah, I'm just talking about music and PE. And when I say I'm sorry, I should have said the SU. I'm certainly not talking about kids from Chester or anything like that. So obviously we're going to table this. The one thing I do feel is important with this is I think a homeschool kid especially, you know, as they're growing, getting into a school and finding out if maybe that's their path or not. I don't know. Just seems like a nice. Like I said, we've had kids in town who've come for other things. So anyway, so obviously we're gonna just table this for now. Yes, go ahead, Russ.
You have two hands. You have board member Russ, and then Michael has a second question.
All right, go ahead, Russ.
It's Pandora's box. Once you open the box, you literally can't close it. It's a legal quagmire.
Well,
I've been involved in this. I've been involved in issues like this in the past in Connecticut, and it's like quicksand. You sink quickly.
Russ, I appreciate you saying that, and I want you to keep in mind what you said at the last meeting about potentially letting a parent send her student for us to tuition her children out of town. And I want you to keep that in mind if that question comes up again. Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on it, but I believe I am. Regardless, if somebody requires special needs, the entire supervisory union splits the cost for their special needs. So really, it costs Windham no less or no more if the individual requires extra support.
Yeah, everything is, all special education is part of our multi-tiered system of support budget that is approved by the Windham Central Supervisory Union Board, and everybody pays based on ADM, not on population.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion about this? Otherwise, we're tabling it until we get some.
I agree with tabling it, and I just wanted to say I also agree with you, Beth, that there is something about a family that clearly is not that far from our community and probably enjoys our community, and that's something worth looking at. So tabling it, I agree, and having Mr. PJ and the teachers all weigh in on what their thoughts are also incredibly important. So thank you.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Item I, Zoom chat / open meeting law. Again, Bill.
Sure. So the response from the attorney, it is likely a violation of the open meeting law. We are supposed to follow Robert's Rules of Order, having an ongoing conversation during the meeting without anyone recognizing the person making the comments, and with the person making comments doing it whenever they like or about whatever they want is not consistent with Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
Robert's Rules of Orders require recognition by the board chair and one at a time comments. The comments must be attributable to identified persons. Other than public comment, the comments must be regarding the agenda item under discussion. So there are a bunch of reasons why the chat function doesn't really work for a proper meeting.
Oh, okay. So people, like typing on the computer?
Correct.
Whatever?
Steve's saying no chat.
Oh, great. No chat. You're done, chat people.
So no, negative. So
sorry.
I challenge that. So every other, our select board, all these other forums, legislation, everybody who follows Robert's rules, they have had chats. And I, for one, I'm sure I'm not alone. And when we have documentation that we're trying to share with the community and people are holding up a piece of paper to the camera going, hey, so this is what this says, when you could share a document in the chat and it can be moderated and it can be controlled, which is why it is allowed and doesn't violate those rules. So I would definitely have some objection to that response, in that if, I'd be willing to even send out a survey monkey to the town to see what people's thoughts are about having it, because it's, as far as sharing documentation, that's a really, really helpful forum, especially when we're using this virtual platform, in person as well, this hybrid style meetings. So that's just one piece, and then if the moderation of the Zoom is handled a little bit differently, the moderator would, at times, they would be reading it off, and at the end of the meeting, it is a printable document that can be included in the minutes. So it's not anything that isn't, it's just as much of a legal document. We're putting everyone's names on it, your name's affiliated with it, you're approved to be in here on Zoom. That's my objection to that. So I don't know what other people's thoughts are on that, but as far as at least the documentation sharing piece, it is huge in saving trees. You have to print out paper. People can have it on their screen if they have poor vision. They can have it be a big, large font for them to be able to read what's on there. So that's a really unique thing that is Zoom's able to do, and I feel like we're missing out by not taking advantage of that. So thank you.
Bill, do you want to? I feel like I'm a little confused, I guess, about this chat thing. So I guess I need more information.
Oh, no, I would just say that the board can decide whatever they want to do. The board asked me to get a clarification from the attorney. I did that. If the board wants to run a meeting in a way that is different than what your attorney is giving you advice to, that's your call. I was tasked with getting the advice of the attorney. I am giving you the advice of the attorney, and the board can decide what they want to do with that advice of the attorney. As the superintendent, it is always my recommendation to boards to follow the advice of the attorney. But the attorney is very clear that it is always up to the board to decide whatever they want to do.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm not comfortable going against the attorney, but I'm not really understanding this whole chat. Are we sharing documents that we're not all, I don't even know what we're talking about. I really don't. I'm really sorry. I just don't get it.
You have 3 people with hands
Hold
up.
on.
You have
All right.
Crystal, then Russ, then Peter.
Go ahead, Crystal.
So I hate to get off topic, but I never received an email. I kind of missed the board meeting because I got so much going on, and it didn't click that today was the board meeting. But I also never got an email with a Zoom link.
I'm sorry about that. It was posted, Crystal. I don't know what to say about that. So obviously we can.
So are we no longer emailing it? We have to go to the town to get the posting?
I don't really know what to say. No, the meeting is it's typically the third Tuesday of the month, and I know I sent it to Ellen. It came out because there was a conversation between you and I in it, which I asked Ellen. I'm like, gee, I didn't think nothing bad, just a couple questions. But anyway, so no, it definitely
No,
went out.
that was the Zoom meeting for the hiring
for the
of
teacher.
the teacher.
Okay, so yeah, I guess maybe it didn't go out, but we can certainly revisit your portion on this. But can we just finish up with this Zoom chat thing first?
Sure.
So I am not comfortable making a
Russ,
decision.
and
Oh,
Peter.
sorry. You know what? I'm going to go with Peter first, Russ, since you've already spoken a couple times. So go ahead, Peter.
Hey, as noted, I have to leave and we'll pick up the rest from the video, but I might be able to shed a little light on this. I've done a lot of these meetings.
Yeah.
What happens is you can't distinguish between document sharing and chatting. And the chatting is a very big disruption to a meeting. It just violates Robert's rules right and left. So what has been done lately is people have been sharing Google Docs on the screen. And people who are entitled to edit those docs can go directly through the Google Drive. And people who aren't can screenshot them off the screen, which is perfectly clear. Far as I know, that's the best thing that's happened yet. And there are other products that can do that, such as WRED. But the chat function is not sophisticated enough to keep the two separate. And believe me, if you have to remember to print out the chat and all that stuff and append it to the minutes, it just isn't workable. So aside from the legal aspect of it, the background of that is it was found to be just untenable.
All right, that's really good
You know,
information.
recognizing speakers one at a time without sidebar conversations in text, which everybody can't see. I apologize for having to go, and I will get this done tomorrow or the next day because I know you need it for the minutes for something that we did earlier.
Great. Thank you, Peter, and thank you for that information. That's helpful. And Russ.
I'm 100% in agreement with Peter. If you violate Robert's Rules of Orders, you've had an illegal meeting. And even though some people think you can just chat away, you just can't do that. It has to be on the agenda. It has to be available to the public on a regular basis. And the chat function is not. So I would say absolutely no chat if we want to stay out of the courts with lawsuits.
Okay. So the chat, the people chatting online, typing, is that what they're doing?
Yeah, like there'd be a side thing here. People would
Okay,
be
so
talking.
if I were to say that if there were people in the room chatting on the side, I would say you need to stop chatting. I mean, that's fair, right? This is what we're on. This is what we're talking about. If it pertains to the discussion, then yes, you need to be recognized. So I feel like this seems really reasonable, Abby. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm also, this is all kind of new to me. So
No, and I am hearing everyone loud and clear. I've just been involved in many large Zoom and Teams meetings that are recorded, documented, and it is how it is moderated. And if people are not following the same rules that you set for the chat room, then it's clear that they are informed clearly, you will be, removed. You're not, same way if somebody wasn't behaving properly, they would be removed. So it's just a matter of how it is designed, and how it is read and how it is included into the meeting. I hear what Peter was saying as far as screen sharing, but the problem with that is it doesn't appear on everyone's screen the same. And if the reader or the person who's sharing the document, it might not be a full screen on some people's pages. So if they scroll up and they're reading, the viewers that are seeing the shared page might not have read that far. So it's really hard as far as document sharing, where when you can attach an item into the chat, that leaves the readers, the people who are online, the option of opening the document on their computer and seeing it. And those documents can be protected, so they can't be edited. But it's just, as far as information sharing goes, I found it to be incredibly beneficial. You have people who are able to better collect their thoughts, to write something to share, and you can do it in an orderly fashion so that it follows the agenda. So that's just all. It's just something to consider, but it does sound like most people are really against it, and I hear that here, but I'd really be curious on what our community thinks and those who participate on Zoom, to what their experiences are, if they have had experiences with using the chat, and whether they think it's beneficial or not. So, thank you.
Beth, I have one last comment.
Sure.
Just because someone else breaks the rules of Robert's Rules of Orders doesn't mean that we need to. And I think it's important to stick with the Robert's Rules of Orders, because that makes for a very sound, recordable meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so we've had some discussion, possible action. Do you want to do your, what did you call it, monkey something, survey monkey?
I can totally do that. It's a simple, do you feel that the school board meetings would be beneficial with a chat or not, just to get a pulse? I can totally send something out for next meeting.
Okay, great.
Excuse me.
Why don't we do that, and we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting then. But I
Great,
certainly,
thank you.
yeah, I certainly do appreciate the attorney's recommendation on this also. Okay, next, item J.
Should we hop back to G?
Oh, sorry, yes,
Or
Crystal.
actually, hop back to D.
Oh, sure. Crystal, are you ready to do the WRED update?
Yes. I'm wondering if there was anything important I missed, because I also have no agenda, so I don't know what was on the agenda.
We did approval of minutes, principal report, superintendent report, an update from you, financials, approved Windham continuous improvement plan, and then the item G, parent request for tuition. And then we just had the discussion about a potential homeschool student participating in music and PE.
Signed my contract.
Oh, sign Mickey's contract, whatever. And then we just had that Zoom chat. So,
Okay. I'll watch the recording when it comes out. If I have any questions, I'll just email.
okay,
Sound good?
yeah. Did you want to do the WRED update? I mean, Bill did one. I don't know if that
Yes.
helps.
Yeah, I think if Bill did it, it's fine, because right now I'm like a little blank, because
Okay.
I'm in the hot seat. I mean, we're doing some long-term planning stuff. We've made committees. We're gathering information. We will present that on June 8th. So I'll make sure that gets sent to everybody. I would strongly encourage people to join either via Zoom or in person June 8th, so they can see what the future of Leland and Gray is going to look like.
I believe it's June 6th, Monday, June 6th, Crystal.
Oh, okay. Every meeting we've had, they're like, we have to have this ready for June 8th. So I'm gonna check with Bob and make sure that we're prepared.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, Bill said June 6th at 7 p.m. So yeah, just let us know if that's correct. Okay.
I will.
Great. And then I guess we'll hop to G then. Parent request for tuition.
You've got to ask the question.
Crystal, you're there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. So
I'm just muting in case my dog barks.
okay. Yeah. So you had brought this up before, and I need to ask: are you actually making this request, or are you just curious about the ability of the board to grant the request?
I think both.
So Crystal, I'll just be clear here. If you're asking this request, then you're gonna commit when the board makes a decision. So,
Okay.
and you can ask now, you can ask in June. The board has the answer they can share with you of their ability to make this decision from the attorney, but it'll
Okay.
be important to be crystal clear, not to be fun there, crystal clear. That you're literally asking for it to happen, because then we will have to create a document and you will be committing for an entire school year at a minimum that if the board has the power and the board does approve, then your students would be going to another school for a calendar year, and that could not be reversed in December. So it may be important for you to really think about whether you're making the request tonight, or maybe you just want to hear tonight if the board has the ability to grant the request, and then you can decide if you want to make a formal request in June.
Yeah, so why don't I hear what the board can do, and then take some time to talk about it with Jimmy and make a decision by June, you said?
Yeah, I would,
Okay.
yeah, because then you will know what the board can do. You will have time to think about it, and then at the June meeting, I believe it's the 15th, I could be wrong, 6th, 13th, it'll be the 14th or the 21st, June 21st.
Oh yeah. Oh, his birthday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
Beth,
why don't we do that if the board can tell me what they're able to do, and then we'll take some time and think about what will be best.
okay, so I'll answer that the board, we heard back from the attorney, and the attorney has communicated that the board has general authority to run the districts as they wish, and if the board wants to pay for tuition, they have the power to make that decision.
Okay? And where
So I
does-
would ask, yeah,
Where
so I
would-
guess I would ask you, Crystal, that you would contact the chair prior to, in the beginning of June, to ask that this be put on the agenda if you would like to make a formal request.
Okay, I do have one question that I just thought of. So next year, I'm pretty sure the boys will be separated. It's the following year that I don't think it's going to be possible. Would you agree, Mickey?
I would agree.
So if I just say, you know what, I'm feeling this out, next year they'll still be separated. I have the option to come back next year and make a request for 2024 and 5, correct?
I do not see anything impeding you from making that request at this time next year for the 23-24 school year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay. All right, Crystal, you're good with that?
Yeah, and I'll email the board and copy Mickey after we take some time to think about it, but I mean, right now I'm thinking that next year we'll probably be there, but the following year, when they can't be separated, we'll probably address it again, but I'm gonna think about it and contact you.
Great. All right. Thank you, Crystal.
Beth, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Just as a taxpayer, what is your answer?
It's a it's a really good question. It is. Aside from what we would be putting on the taxpayers, yes, that's something I've thought about a lot. There's, the precedent that it sets.
Yeah, because I asked years ago for tuition, was turned down, so.
I understand. And it's something that, Russ just brought up about potentially bringing in a homeschooler to do, coming in just to do music and PE, saying that that's going to set a precedent. So, that's what I'm saying. Keep in mind what you're saying, because believe me, it's a tough thing.
So as far as what Bill said, the attorney was like, you make the decision.
Bill, I have a document here that can I share what the attorney shared?
Why don't you let me read what the attorney shared?
Thank you, great.
Okay?
Yeah.
So boards have the general authority to run districts as they wish. If the board wants to pay for tuition, they can make that decision. The attorney always gives the advice that once you make that decision, it could be a slippery slope, because when do you say no? And who do you say no to?
So that's where we're at. Thank you for sharing that. So yes, believe me, we're not taking this lightly at all. It's, you want to make everybody happy, but everybody is the whole community, So yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Carolyn.
You have 3 hands up.
All right, I've got Carolyn right here, and then you can, decide who's next.
So,
Okay.
I would just like to say that in the 24 and a half or 25 years that I served on the school board, we actually tuitioned one student that I can remember, and it was because, and it's a long time ago, and it was because they really needed a special placement. And Bill, I thought that the general policy was that as long as we have an operating school, we should not tuition, but there were some caveats for kids who needed special education or special placements. And is that not the case?
So statute-wise, in elementary school, which is K through 6, which Windham is, the only specificity is if geography is an issue, the board can make a decision based on geography. That would be, for example, a student who lives at the tip of Windham and another school was significantly closer. So it's a geography-only decision. The board can make a decision based on geography. But in general, under statute, the board can go ahead and pay tuition if they desire, if they so choose. So both of those are able. And then special education decisions of placement, those are made by IEP team decisions, not by the school board.
Okay.
So there's 3 pathways. 1, in elementary school, geography specific. 2, any decision that the board makes. And 3, an IEP team.
Okay, that was good. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Okay.
Okay, you got Crystal, then Russ, then Abby.
Okay, go ahead, Crystal.
So I have just a couple of things. I think I missed the homeschooler part, because I thought we were obligated to allow homeschoolers to participate.
This is a homeschooler that's not in Windham. It's somebody that's in West Townsend, and we have not made a decision on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I missed that part that they're from another district.
yeah, no, yeah.
I think probably to clarify, you know, I think we'll definitely stay next year. I understand the community's frustration that, you know, why do they get tuitioned out if we don't? I think we have a lot of stuff coming up, like the possible intra-district choice. So that could be a possibility after next year. And I think that, you know, maybe Mickey could take next year and maybe try to start doing exercises with Jackson and Oliver to see if it could be made to work with them being in the same room. You know, I'm not against that either, but I think Mickey and I both agree if we look at these children currently, it would be difficult to have them in the same room.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. Who did you say, Russ, next?
Russ, then Abby.
Yes, I would like the individual sitting behind Carolyn Partridge to identify herself for the record.
It's me, Russ, Sue Perry.
Oh, thank you, Sue. I can't tell because my screen is so small, I can't see who you are. Thank you.
Unmasked too.
Okay, Abby.
Abby, yep.
Sorry, it took me a second to get my mute button there. So just to verify, right, that NRE are all on a
Abby, you're not coming in, sorry.
individualized decision. Please, I'm not understanding, but once.
Yeah, it's not coming through clearly.
How about now? Looks like I got 3 bars.
Okay, yeah, that's better.
So, just clear, this is from what is an individual case for the boards. Every time they're requesting on an case to look at particular reasons as to why or why not. So I hear the one that's individualized and it's a decision we can be paying attention to as well. Is that correct?
If I heard you correctly, Abby.
Based on the individual.
Bill, if you heard that clearly, Abby, if that's okay, because it really didn't come through great, at least as far as I could hear. Yeah, Bill, if you heard that, if Abby, maybe Bill can relay that message.
I believe that Abby was asking if these are individual decisions, that they exist as individual decisions. That is correct. That the board would be charged with making an individual decision based on an individual request. The attorney's advice is just to understand in the world that if you do make an individual decision, that the next decision will point to that other individual decision and will challenge the board of why are you saying yes or no to me when you said yes or no to the other. But I think Abby was asking about if it would be the board's charge to make an individual decision, and she is correct on that.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what it would be. We would be put in the position of saying yes to one and no to another, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not comfortable with that as the board chair and also as a representative of the community. So, okay, but it sounds like we have a plan in place right now.
You have another hand, Mr. Kerman.
And Sue.
Oh,
I just wanted to point out that Bill is correct. Once you set precedent, it's hard to obfuscate the rationale behind your decision. So it's extremely important to view things in the view of precedent setting and what could happen in the future.
Great, thank you, Russ. Sue?
What are we talking? What is the price of tuition?
I think we said 17 for Townsend, Bill?
I believe it is 17,000, yes.
So, yeah, and yeah, believe me, that's what I'm talking about as far as what you're asking of the taxpayers. And then if you're sending money out to follow one student, when that money could, one or two, could be, and no offense, anybody here, these are things that we have to think about. What could that money do here for the many students?
I mean, I don't know the situation, but are we talking special ed?
We have that conversation.
No, that's not, I'm not.
So one, we would never identify a student publicly about that, but Sue, the board has power to make decisions based on geography under statute or not on geography and just on any request. A special education decision would be made by the individual education plan team.
That would be
That would
beyond
not be a
us.
board decision.
That would not be us.
Right,
That's
so I
separate.
guess what I was asking was like, do we not have those services here?
No, we are federally required to make sure that all IEPs are serviced, no matter where the student resides.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got a plan. Crystal's gonna think about it, and so we're gonna move on from that discussion. Does that seem fair? Okay, to Jay.
It does. If I could add, can I just add one thing,
Sure.
just to clarify for people who may not be familiar with IEPs. But if there could be a circumstance where in an IEP, it is noted for some reason, there's something for some reason that would make that school not a good fit for an individual. For various reasons, it could, who knows what, but there's lots of things that can seem really wonky that are an IEP, but that, as Bill had mentioned, would be decided. So just because if there's a decision made by an IEP team, it doesn't mean it's just because, there's something wrong with the school or the school can't provide it. There could be something, just a weird thing that a kid can't get over that they have to deal with that is just not at another school. Orange and purple playgrounds really could freak somebody out, so it sounds, I'm just being serious in that could be something that could be on an IEP. So, and that's none of our business as anybody as to what's on a child's IEP, which is why that decision is made by a team.
Right.
So going forward, when we're having these conversations, I just want that, people shouldn't feel like, oh, we're just not being told it's some mystery. It's really nobody's business. And we'll support the IEP team's decisions. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Are we ready to move on? Galen, you ready to move on? Yeah. Jay, food service. Discussion, possible action. Well,
So the board asked me to make sure this was on the agenda, but I don't have any documents or any knowledge of the discussion.
yes, go ahead.
So one of the last things I did when I was up at the State House before we adjourned was I tracked down Nora Horton, who she's part of the, oh gosh, what are they calling themselves? Hunger Free Vermont.
Oh.
The Campaign to End Childhood Hunger was their old name. And I said, hey, I'd like to get a food program at Windham, and she said, we're on it.
Okay.
So we didn't have time to discuss in depth. I'm assuming that Bridget is, one of the, Bridget Corby, I believe, is following up with that. I'm more than happy to help in any way I can.
Thank you. The one thing that I did have a conversation between Lori and Greg Frost was one of the decisions we could potentially make or facilitate now is to have a contact person. That's what's been difficult. So whether it's Bridget Corby but that could be an email blast, either out to the community, or it could be something that Sarah could post to the parents. Does somebody want to take on that role of being the person so that Greg and Lori are not hearing from me or you or a parent, they're just hearing from one contact. We'd have our food service or food future contact person. So I'd like to make the decision now. I will pose that to Sarah tomorrow, if she could send it out to the families.
To ask if somebody
wants to be that person. And it would just be really helpful to have one person, like Crystal reports on the WRED, Bill reports on his superintendent stuff, you report on your principal, we'll have somebody report on the food future. Okay, that decision's made, that's what we're doing. Okay, any other discussion about the food service?
I have a few comments.
Sure.
From my gray cells recalling what Greg Frost had said in previous meetings, apparently some of the schools within the West River District are upgrading some of their equipment, and there might be some used equipment available for Windham.
Okay.
I think it would be extremely timely for someone to find out from Greg what physical equipment is available on a used basis, because if we don't have the equipment, we can't participate in the meal program. There are still conditions that need to be met in order for us to receive the food and serve it. So it's important to have a very coordinated approach to what is available for used and what we might need to buy new. And I think with our $90,000 surplus, we have some money available to fill that need. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. We can, so actually just renamed it Russ Food Service Coordinate. So, and then between that, and then maybe if we find someone, Carolyn, I could direct them to you and you could have that discussion,
Sure.
about, and I know Hunger Free Vermont has come up before from Bridget Cordy, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion about the food service? Okay, hearing none, going on to K, CLA discussion.
This is on the agenda, just as a reminder for Russ to just keep the board apprised of the unique challenges of the CLA, to think about the future and future planning for Windham, as the CLA has direct impact on and out of the board's control.
Great. Okay.
There was a copy of a letter that I sent to the chair of the Ways and Means, included in the documents that were sent.
Yep.
The key element here is, even if we have no increase in our budget next year, because of the fact that our CLA is going to drop some more, our tax rate is going to increase. And it's still unknown, based upon the legislations that passed and the use of the surplus, how that's going to affect our tax rate. But it's an untenable situation to be in, where we do not increase our spending, but simply because our CLA has gone down, our tax rate goes up. And it's all because of the prices of real estate, primarily to vacation homeowners, that is driving the CLA down. It's not necessarily sales of properties to people who have children and live in Windham and send them to school. So it's a really ugly situation. No matter what we do, we're probably going to end up paying higher taxes.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
If it would be helpful, I would be more than happy to ask Emily Kornheiser, who is from Brattleboro. She's a state rep who is, I believe she's vice chair of Ways and Means at this point. I shouldn't say that in public. But she might be willing to join us at one of our meetings, just to kind of describe to us the situation, because I have brought it up with her and others on the Ways and Means Committee, that this is a really tough situation, and that it would be great if we could somehow hold harmless the CLA as we did the equalized pupils and all of this. The argument I made was all of this was because of the pandemic, really. I think most of these sales are pandemic related. Yeah. So if you would like me to ask Emily if she'd be willing to maybe not spend the whole time here at our meeting, but maybe spend a few minutes, I'd be glad to do that, but that's totally up to you.
No, I think that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. All right, any other discussion about the CLA? I'm just looking for a pen to sign your contract. Okay, great. Well, we have no executive session, unless Bill's got something hiding up his sleeve. And,
No?
great,
That's
okay,
Nicole, adjournment.
great, so we have.
Can we have, executive session?
I can't, are you requesting one, Abby?
Yes, if that would be possible.
Yeah, I have no idea, Bill, is that oh, thank you.
We need to know, what is it for? And why are we going into executive session?
Well, I'm interested in asking about, you know, how we would support a school fair.
So I don't think that would be a executive session item.
Okay.
That's not an item for discussion. It's not on the
Okay, and
agenda.
then the next piece I would say is, I haven't eaten today, guys, I'm like fading fast here. Using the emails, I know that there was some email threads here. The email at apelton@windhamcentralboard.org, please, if people can make sure that they're using that email, I would really appreciate it. And I think, most of you are, but, outside, if that could just be clearly noted that that was my preferred.
I mean, that's a really good reminder, and thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I'm trying
Excellent.
to correct it too with correspondences between people also, so I am aware of it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's challenging when you have more than one email.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Where's my cash? Yes, next meeting, June 21st at 6 o'clock. We're adjourning at, what's the time?
Can I make a
Oh, sorry.
So I just have a question, and if it's not something anybody wants to deal with, it's fine. I'm just looking at the 21st. Is that the next date? We're not actually in school. That falls on like the 10 days that my wife has off from school because she works all summer long through the month of July. So it is feasible that I will not potentially be here on June 21st. I didn't know if anyone wanted to consider having the meeting on the 14th, the week before, when we're still in school. But if that's a pain for everybody else, then we'll just hope that I'll be here.
No, I'm fine with that. Anybody else, the 14th?
I'm okay with that.
Russ?
Yeah, I'll, I might be able to participate. I'm having surgery on the 9th, but I don't know how I'll be on the 14th.
Okay. Do you want to think about it and get back to us?
You'll have with the two of you'll have a consensus of a meeting. You'll have a quorum.
Right, okay, all right.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry about that last minute request.
Okay, so next meeting, June 14th at 6 o'clock. Great, we are adjourning at
7:27.
7:27, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah,
done.
yep. Bill?
Russ made the motion to adjourn. You need a second, and then
I second the motion.
and then you can adjourn.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.